This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this edition of the panel on lirmedia.tv. Usual email info@lirmedia.tv, and thank you for your comments. They're very welcome. We won't read them out, and we won't read out your name either. We might embarrass you, but welcome Alison O'Reilly to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
And welcome Mary Honan to the show.
Hi, and a big shout out. Sorry, can we say a big hello to John Lonergan, who's recuperating after having had a knee replacement on Thursday. He said, I think Thursday, yeah. So he's in quite a bit of pain, but I said to him he'll be running now next because what is the pain?
Or Irish dancing.
Yeah, well, he'll be nearly as good as he said. Well, it'd be hard to be as good as John, but
John, get well. We want you back. We wash you back, want you back, as Peter Kay would say, wash you back, wash you back.
And Laura.
And Laura is not with us tonight, yeah.
Well, and Laura Widrow, it's noted you're not coming on tonight. We take umbrage of that, you know. We'll have a word with you next week when you come on. You have to account for all your movements tonight, you know. We heard all these excuses before. No. Yeah. Anyway, I won't say what Mary said to me about it. But
I never said anything. Well, listen to him.
Someone else as well. But I suppose, when I grew up, I was in the era where I grew up with the circus, and the great Tom Duffy, he passed away during the week at the age of 92. And for my vintage, that was huge in my life growing up in the late 50s, early 60s. Tom Duffy was born in his parents' caravan in Limavady, as we know, and his two grandsons now, I've written down here, Jamie and Tom, are running the business. But it went on to become one of the biggest circuses in Europe, outside of the mainstream circuses, like Chipperfields. I don't know, do you remember Chipperfields coming to Dublin or coming to Louth or anything up around there? No. But Chipperfields and the one from America come over once a year to Ireland as well. But that was in the early days of the 50s, 60s and 70s. But Tom Duffy, as I said, he survived 2 bouts of cancer, survived 2 heart attacks, survived COVID, and still, he was a fantastic horseman. If people remember the circus, some of us remember Duffy's circus. It's the first time ever in my life, because I grew up at the time when we had no television, just early on when I was young lad, and when I saw a lion in the 2 lines, I couldn't. I mean, the excitement of seeing the lions and a tiger was there as well. You can imagine seeing those
he was
animals.
Supposed to be. He got the nickname the boy with the iron jaw because he had a brother, Arthur, and they used to do an act together, and his brother was hanging upside down, or rather he was hanging upside down, and his brother, he had a leather belt in between his teeth, and the brother would hang from it 40 feet.
Oh my God.
But you know, I never went to this. We tried. We used to try this. I live about less than a minute from a big field here where they used to bring the cows to mart and the cattle to mart, and it used to be called the Fair Green, and it is called the Fair Green still. But there's houses there now, but they used to bring the circus there, so you really only had to walk less than a minute up to the circus. But we used to try and climb in as children, but I hated it. We used to try and climb under the tent for nothing, and a few of us, and but I absolutely can't tell you how much I hated it.
Really?
I used to only go in because my friends were going in or trying to go in. I hated the smell. I hated the idea that the animals were being, I thought, used. You know, even at a young age, I had a concept that the animals weren't happy, or I thought they weren't happy. I'm sure there's some circuses that treated their animals well, but I'm just glad that animals are gone out of the circus.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you look at the Russian state, I was only talking to Pat there recently. I was binging on Torval and Dean, and when Torval and Dean were in Russia, they were given the choice of going to the circus or going to the ballet, and wanted to go to the ballet, and he wanted to go to the circus, and they created Barnum and Bailey that got all sixes from what he saw at the circus. Now I can appreciate that, and the Chinese state circus and all this, but I never liked the animal. I hated clowns with a passion.
They never bothered me now. My younger sister was all freaked out about them. They never bothered me, but I can see why.
Never liked clowns at all. Never saw the purpose of them. Hated the smell of sawdust.
Alison, when were you at a circus last? When were you at a circus last?
Oh, it's a long time ago. I suppose, I was at that age. My dad used to love bringing us to the circus, and it was fascinating, and we loved it. But then I always loved animals, but the older I got, I realized actually this isn't okay. And some animals looked very thin, and you just, that it's dying. All that stuff is going. I think zoos will go. I think, as you said, animals gone from the circus. All of that stuff, we're having performing monkeys and things. That's all going. Same as, Dolphin World and all these things. They need to go. Animals are not meant to be locked up like that.
No, they can use the circus like they had with, as I say, with the Russian state, or the I think it's the Chinese state circus, where it's all trapeze and it's all
exactly
athletics, but bringing misfortunate animals into the equation.
Well, yes, obviously with Duffy's, the thing I liked about it as well, I remember vividly, was they had a band as well. They had a band that played all these beautiful marching tunes and fantastic. It's a different era. I agree with you.
Yeah, and it's a great thing there's so many people who love being in the circus. As you said, athletes and trapeze artists and things that's just extraordinary flexibility and like athletes. But animals, no, gone are those days. Those days are gone.
I think there's only horses now, because obviously they'd be using a few horses, but I think apart from that, it's all acrobats, clowns, and rope tricks and stuff like that. The last time I went with the kids, I left them sitting down the side while I went out for a bit of air. But it's all right, some of the circuses are okay. But I suppose it's like everything else in life. It had its apex in the 70s, 80s. After that, I think insurance became a problem, running costs became a problem. Visas for people who would be brought in for the season from Bulgaria, Romania,
and animal welfare became a huge thing.
Animal welfare. Now, I do appreciate that they gave people the freedom to be in jobs that got them people who were very creative, people who were artistic. Who may not have been able to get on the stage regularly. People say in the UK wouldn't get on the West End, but would run away at an early age. It sounded almost romantic to run away with the circus. And then they would take part in all of this, and they could be with people of like-minded souls traveling the world and being part of. And I can imagine it being glamorous to an extent. And
they had other things coming into the country, particularly into the rural areas where I lived, where I grew up, was they had the Black family were well-known show entertainers. They had an all-round show with they had a bit of a play on short story, juggling, singing, dancing. There would be a relation to the blacks, the singers as well.
Mary Black.
There's a tradition of entertainment in their families, and just a by the way. And it was the circus, still great memories, but as we said, it has had its time.
Yeah. Now but it's great as well that it was a family. It was the parents did it, his parents did it, and then he did it, and then his children ran it. So it was like, I suppose, for any of us in Irish dancing or in the arts, in that the one good thing about Irish dancing parents or teachers found was that they could bring their children along with them. Very, very few other jobs allowed.
Exactly.
You knew where your child was at every minute, because they were at a competition with you, they were at a class with you, and they almost grew up permanently with you, like they wouldn't experience in any other job, really. Very few other jobs, where you'd have to go out 9 to 5. You were always with your child if they were in until they went to school, and then when they'd come home, you'd bring them to class with you.
Mary, just to cut across you there, speaking of animal welfare, did you see the Zuma brothers are being charged? Well, I think they are charged.
No.
Kurt Zuma and his brother over kicking the cat. Now,
thank God.
they're facing charges. Yeah, the brother was charged, and it said that Kurt
photoing for videoing.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I meant to say that to you. Yeah, it came up in the news there during the week.
You know, hopefully it will be the start of the change in laws in the UK. If it happens in the UK, it'll happen in Ireland.
Exactly.
Because my mum always said, you know, if England gets a cold, Ireland gets pneumonia.
Yeah.
We always end up
copying them.
Or waiting to see what they're going to do.
Yeah.
You know, before it's done here.
I mean, we
really need to increase the laws here in this country for animals.
But Mary, you must remember, we have very, very stringent laws on animal welfare. The problem is enforcement. Exactly. They are not enforced. We don't need any more laws.
No, but Pat, they need to get a long sentence in order for it to actually make any effect, and it needs to be, as you say, enforced. It's no good saying, oh, you can get up to 10 years in jail for abuse. That
give them the 10 years, zero tolerance.
That crowd up in Roscommon, the two that had the animals in sheds. I mean, they walked out. They got nothing.
Like they got shame, Mary. They got shame.
No, Alison,
but I mean, they're banned from having animals for life.
A well-known politician who is now a minister, what's the word? I say, advocated on their behalf in the court.
That's right, but
she's now a minister. So look, there's a lot of blackouting going on as well behind the scenes, as we know. You know,
get me out of this. Yeah.
Anyway, the panel is the show. Press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel, and thank you for doing so up to now. We're delighted with you. That's the gas bills are going up 40%. The ESPs go up around 27 or 30%, but that's bad enough. That is very bad. But I was speaking to two men who are they're retired in their own jobs, but they're semi-retired from helping out with St. Vincent de Paul. The stories, I'm hoping to get them on this show some Saturday night. Well, one of them will not come on camera, but one of them will. The horrific story of poverty in Ireland today in 2022 is something comparable.
He doesn't have to come on camera.
It's something comparable to after the famine in this country. That's where we're at now. People cannot live. They cannot pay the bills. Throwing 120 quid at people, you might as well throw, you know, a bucket of water on a fire. It's a shocking carry on with the government. Yeah. It's a shocking, insensitive carry on.
But you know, it's our own fault, Pat. It's all of our own fault. It's one thing saying, you know, the government have done this and we're allowing it to happen, because I mean, personally, we can go out at the drop of a hat and protest for any number of things but we can't come out and protest about what's going on with this increase in water and or increase in gas and increase in ESB. They're the fundamental needs that people need. Now, okay, you can say, well, people don't need gas, but they need heating. So if they don't have heating, what do they have? You get coal. They're telling you that you can't have coal. You have to have smokeless coal. Yeah. It's like our lives are being micromanaged. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as somebody, an only child, I never liked to be told what to do. I was always good at doing what I was told to a certain extent, but I hate to be controlled in any way. And I feel that this is just 3 steps too much, Alison. The idea that they can tell us that, you know, 40% to go up, and what is it, 30%, Pat, with the gas? Yeah. I mean, my gas bill is colossal right at this moment. I mean, absolutely. I'd be ashamed to tell you what my gas bill is, because I have it on all the time because I have low blood pressure, and I have to have heat, and I have, I just can't understand how people aren't outraged and out in force. And I don't understand. I really don't understand it. We can blame the politicians all we like, but they're only doing what they're getting away with.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's not enough robust opposition there. I think people have become lethargic, and they're not challenging the government enough. I mean, it's only going to get worse. Like, we're already hitting the recession, and Ukraine. I mean, and like I've done an awful lot of those street cafes. I spoke to Alan Bailey, another person you should speak to, Mary, just about handing out food parcels at Christmas. The rise in the number of people that are coming out to those street cafes. Now, I've been to them on Grafton Street, like Dublin, and I'm not saying like poverty doesn't discriminate. This is happening in every town and village across Ireland.
It is.
You go there, and the generosity of people, first of all, is incredible. There's everything from aftershave to shower gel to nappies to milk to all the practical things that you need, from children right over to, you've got men coming up to have their hair cut on the street and shaved because they're going for job interviews and they need to look decent, even though they're coming from like abject poverty. And you've got those street cafes, just so many kids, so many children, and they're queuing and queuing and queuing. And then Owen Keegan says, these things don't work. They're not helpful. You're only encouraging people. I mean, these are people who are actually working. They're working.
They're not living.
They need that little bit of extra. Like, I could go in there. I work. I have a mortgage. But, I might say, like, at the end of the week, I don't have enough for me and the boys or whatever. I could go in there, queue up, and get a bit of bread and something else to last me till the end of the week.
Absolutely.
It's not homeless people in their sleeping bags that are going.
No.
And if it is,
and people struggling to make ends meet.
But if it is Alison, people.
Did he have to walk that back? Didn't he? I think he had to.
Yeah, he did.
If it is Alison, people.
But he shouldn't apologise, Alison. He should have been fired from his job.
Yeah, he should.
Nobody gets fired from their job.
No, but he should have been.
You don't. It's not.
Alice,
in America and England, everyone gets fired. In Ireland, they hang on. They hang on.
If it is somebody living on the streets, then they're living on the streets because of the regulations and because of the actions of the government. But they're not living on the street. They're not living. We had a family friend who was very involved with both not John's Ambulance, but the Knights of Malta, the Order of Malta, but also with St. Vincent de Paul. And even in the 80s, and that, he used to say, you would be shocked if you knew the people who were actually, who you were, of course, he never told, and nor would we ask, but you would be shocked at the people with big houses that have literally the floorboards taken out of their houses, Georgian style houses, taken out to heat themselves. But rather than sell the house and show that they had come into hard times, they were living in damp and freezing Georgian houses,
rather than hold their hands up,
and their floorboards literally gone inside in the place. And he said you'd be going in through a back entrance or that, so nobody would actually know. I mean, you've only got to talk to what's his name in Offaly, Pat, Ken Smullen. Ken Smullen does some enormous work for the homeless. And he's always talking about
food poverty is his thing. Food poverty.
He's an ex-guard and Garda, and he's a councillor in Offaly. And he does.
He's the guy, Alison, you could talk to, Ken Smullen.
You should talk to Ken.
He's doing 2 or 3 fantastic work up around there.
You sent me his number, Mary.
Yeah. Pat interviewed him twice.
And John Lonergan's number, because I want to speak to his son.
Yeah.
The Irish dancer.
Young John.
The Irish dancer now.
The Irish dancer.
You were saying there, Alison, about it's the easiest thing for me or you or anybody on the show is to blame Fianna Fáil for again the Greens are in power.
No, it's very complex, Pat.
The point is, all the parties are the same.
Yeah, I think as well, Pat.
It's appalling.
Ordinary Joe Soap thinks of homelessness and they think of the person in the sleeping bag. Speaking of which, I was in town the other day and I passed the guy in the sleeping bag that did not move, and it was about 9:10, and I was thinking, now he should have been up and moving by now. And I actually purposely came back an hour later to see did he move? And he actually did. And I noticed another person. So we had a conversation. She said, no, he's moving. But I rang the guards anyway, in case he was moving and some distressed. I mean, of course he's distressed anyway. He's homeless on the street. But I think the ordinary Joe Soap thinks of homelessness and they think of sleeping bags, sleeping rough. But actually it's all across the board. And it's so... You're always going to have homelessness. And with homelessness comes a lot of mental health problems.
Yeah.
Comes a lot of addictions. So it's not just a case of giving someone a load of money in a house. Like, it's actually rehab. And then some people, I spoke to one playwright who was on the street and got a home. And he said within that first week, he ran away to Galway and slept rough for that week because he couldn't cope with the room and the bed. But he settled in because he got rehab. You know, he got his therapy, but there is extreme homelessness. There's the hidden homeless. There's the kids having to move home with their parents, kind of temporary, sort of hanging in limbo. People are just moving home with their families now. It's all across the board.
People don't want a handout. They want a leg up. They want a leg up. They want to be able to look out, to work. Fundamentally, everyone wants their own home, and they want a roof over their head, a warm roof over their head, and to be able to go to work and earn their own living. People they're grateful if they can get a handout when they're really desperate, but fundamentally Pat and I drove down, it's just horrendous to watch when you come down. I won't mention the street because it's emblematic of many of the streets in Limerick and in Ireland, where you walk down and perfectly good houses boarded up, and you're saying to yourself, there's people on the street, there's people in bed sits and in hotels every day of the week, and they could be inside in those houses doing them up and being given that house.
It's a complex issue. I agree with you, Alison, homelessness, and we're talking about people also who cannot afford to live. And also now, what maddens people is the government can pass a motion in the Dáil to take in up to 50,000 refugees from Ukraine. There's 5,500 already after arriving in. 130 flew into Shannon on Monday, accommodated immediately in a hotel in Kilkee and a hotel in Limerick. My son can't get a house.
But you see, when you sign up,
I'm not equating the two. I'm just saying, if they can pull out all the stops for this, they should be able to do it for our own citizens as well. That's my point. And of course, we look after people distressed, but really and truly, it's a slap in the face to our own people when they're going over to get a cap in the back from Ursula von der Leyen or someone else, and their photograph taken, and they're on CNN and BBC, and they're great boys. That to me is the height of hypocrisy.
And I understand that, Pat, because we're part of the EU. We have to take refugees in. That's the way it is. I remember when the Vietnamese boat people came to Ireland in the 80s. People were given
in the 70s,
they came to Ireland in the 80s.
3 families moved in beside me.
I'm somebody who believes that people have to be given. These people have to be brought in and given sanctuary. Their country is... Sorry, Pat, let me finish, please. Their country is decimated. It's been destroyed. There's mothers and children. And but I do agree with Pat in the sense of, I think, if the houses, the modular houses and everything could suddenly be money could be got to build modular houses for families. Where was the money all along to build modular houses for the homeless?
Oh no, Mary, now the modular houses have always been on the cards, but people didn't want them. That's another thing. That did happen. It did happen. There was huge argument over modular houses. And people would say, oh, no, I'm not moving in there. Yeah, imagine giving someone a modular house, because that's the first thing I thought of when I heard the Ukrainians were getting them. And of course, we take them in. Oh my God, we will never be able to compare to what they're going through. Never. No. Even the homeless people in Ireland have no clue. It's two different worlds.
But you said, we are in the EU, Alison, but Ukraine is not part of the EU.
I know, I understand that, but I mean, this is a world response to a crisis. Why are we supporting
the war effort in Ukraine? They're not in the EU.
But you know, Pat, if he succeeds,
I'm only just being the devil's
we're all affected. We're all affected. That's why we're trying to help.
Down the line for us as a country.
Pardon?
There will be repercussions for us down the line as a country.
I know, but I just think, you know, if he is successful in Ukraine, we're all screwed. We're all screwed.
Putin won't be successful in Ukraine, in my opinion. I don't.
No, I think so too. I think you're right. It's going to. I think it's going to end quite soon. Like they're very strong. The Ukrainians, very strong.
Yeah, I think that what Russia did was obviously just nobody agrees with a big country invading a small country or any country for that matter, but. I think what he's want to achieve, he's already achieved, in that the Russian part of Ukraine, for the want of a better description, up around Donetsk and there where they wanted autonomy, I think that will be part of the negotiated agreement if and when they get around the table. Because they'll have to get around the table. You know?
Oh my God.
I think actually their president is an example to everyone, to every country in the world, of what strength and courage, and in the face of the most enormous adversity. The man, I saw it written actually the other day that he wasn't built for war. I mean, I'm 4'10". I doubt Zelensky is much taller. He's a tiny.
He was a comedian, wasn't he? A comedian.
He was a comedian. He was an actor. He's everything. He's an everyman. He can dance. He can sing. He can act. He's into comedy. He's a lawyer by profession. People forget that he's a lawyer. But above all of that, he's the grandson of a Holocaust survivor whose his grandfather's three brothers were killed by the Nazis. And that is inbuilt in him, that determination to fight for what is his and to hold on to it. And people forget they're dealing with a very special animal in Zelensky.
I totally agree with you, Mary. He's you'd follow him into hell if you had to.
I would. I have.
You're just like, where are you going? I'm with you.
Yeah, because he has stayed with his people.
Well, there's no doubt if they're giving out the Nobel Peace Prize, he'd probably be top of the list.
Absolutely. And he deserves it. But it's just
not just him, but
you need a leader, and you need, like, I mean, he said stay and fight, and I was like, oh my God.
I mean, Alison, when you compare the likes of Zelensky, I know it's a wartime and people do come to the top during adversity, and he certainly has.
Yeah, he has.
When you look at the leader of the United States, it's pathetic.
Yeah. You see, they're afraid of their life to go anywhere near Putin. That's what it is. Don't rock the boat. Don't poke the beast.
But I can't blame
warn him. What I don't understand is why were not all of the sanctions issued all at once? Just smack them down rather than bit by bit by bit.
I can't blame anyone for, when you talk about the airspace and shutting down the airspace, that becomes tantamount to a red flag and signing the Europe into a war and signing American. It has to be taken very, very delicately. It's an awful situation because Zelensky is there, and every single day you look at him and the two ex-boxers, and all the tennis players and all the athletes that have gone back to Ukraine, given up their careers to go back and fight. Jesus, they've never even taken up a gun in their lives. They're like, imagine sending your 18-year-old child. There was photographs today of 18-year-olds with, those welders' pads on their knees, and they were handed a gun, and they're fighting one of the greatest, one of the largest nuclear powers in the world.
Yeah.
And but the fact that Zelensky has stayed with him, his wife has stayed with him, his children have stayed. He even said it the other day when he was asked, if you left, Putin says that the war would end if you gave up, and he put in a puppet government instead. He said, if I left, it would be very, very hard, he said, to garner the spirit and to keep people going. Yeah. And he said, I'm doing the best I can, and I think I'm doing the right thing. Only time will tell.
Yeah, no, he's incredible. He's amazing to watch and listen to. And he keeps saying, thanks for everything that you're doing, guys. But what more can you do for me in my country? And the Ukrainians are very resilient. Like, they're defending their country forever. You know, so they are quite strong people. But you need a leader like him. He has come out of this.
He was born for this.
Wow.
And people say physically he's anything but a leader. You know, he's diminutive.
But he's steady to watch.
Yeah.
You look at him and you go, I believe him. I'm listening.
Did you see Putin with the big rally he had in Moscow? It was like a rock concert, you know?
Yeah. But some of those misfortunate people over there, Pat, don't know what's going on because everything's been shut down.
Yeah.
They know there's a war. We can't be naive. They know there's a war going on. They know their sons are getting killed, or their fathers.
A lot of those boys were sent there.
They know that there's enough of them dead already. So
sent there under false pretenses.
Yeah, a lot of them were told that they were going for training. Yeah. Some of them were told that they were going to protect. Some were told they were going because there was a war, that the Ukrainians had started a war. Lies are the modus operandi of...
You're right there. We must remember that the Ukrainians are fighting since 2009 up around Donetsk against the Russians. So there's no naivety on either side, you know?
No, and I think as well, though, you see, younger people today, they don't fancy war. They're not into it. They're thinking, what are you talking about? And they're looking at the Ukrainians and they're thinking, I'm not into this. I've been misled. I don't really want to do this. Younger people today are different. They're kind of like, this is not for me, guys.
The panel is the program. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel. Ageism. You know, sometimes ageism, I'm just losing my train of thought. Thank you for your message, Mary. She's sending me messages here. You could wave, but
Mary got her ageism in anyway.
Ageism should be.
I got my ageism in.
Is a discrimination as serious as lack of experience on the other end of the scale? I think myself. If you're fit and healthy and you have experience and you turn up for an interview, whether you're 20 or 40 or 60, you should have equal standing for that interview, for that job. You know, Alison, I don't know what you think of that.
Well, you know, I think you look at journalists today now, they used to be paid so well in the print industry, and now you've younger people coming in and they'd rather the younger people because they're cheaper, you know, and it does happen. It's happening all across the board. Younger people, few bob. And so in that way, it's kind of like, it's really about finances now rather than, you know, and your age will go against you if you've the experience, you know. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, like you work, Maurice Gaffney worked as a barrister until he was 100. And he was 100 years old and still working.
He was 100.
Pardon?
There's hope for us also.
He was 100. My goodness me.
Yeah, he was 100, and he died very shortly after he was 100, and he gave me his last interview. And I remember he said that you see in the courts, you know, a lot of distress, a lot of depression. And he said, so it's, you know, it's not what you can do for yourself, it's what you do for others. And he continued to work. And I'm in an industry where I'm lucky. If you can write, it's good content, it'll always sell. There's everything now from books to podcasting to TV. Like, I'd like to do TV script writing. But I know that as long as I can see enough use of my fingers and typing, then you know, it's a career I will be able to As long as you're good, it's good content. I mean, an editor will take a story from the devil if it's a good exclusive, you know? And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You could be a serial killer and they'll say, that is a brilliant story though, and it stands up, so we'll take it.
He's a serial killer, but he writes well.
But he's got a great story there. It's a splash.
And when you talk, Alison, about TV script writing, I don't know anything about that. I mean, I won't say how do you become a script writer, but obviously if you have a talent for writing, you have a talent for writing, and it doesn't matter what it's for. Yeah,
absolutely. I've had loads of ideas. Like I've written a couple of films and things, like, and they're just sitting there. But I have an idea that's been going around in my head for a long, long time, and I've kind of done a pilot. It's based in the 80s, and there's Irish dancing in it, Mary. And it's called Hard Shoes. And I
was wondering why you have your email is Hard Shoes.
Yeah, it's your treble shoes. The treble shoes.
Dancing.
Yeah, it's the treble shoes.
Yeah.
So and it's about that, and it's a story of survival, you know. But it's kind of teenage bullying and, you know, fractured childhood, and the dancing kind of saves her in many ways, more than, you know, she has to prove herself as a dancer in order to survive everything, you know. The dancing is the way out.
When you said you did the pilot, how long is that?
45 minutes. I've only done one episode, but I know, like, there's 5 episodes drafted, so they're 45 minutes.
And was that produced?
No, I haven't filmed the pilot. Sorry, I was thinking.
I beg your pardon. That's what I said. I thought you.
Yeah. So, Mary, I am looking for one good dancer who can actually dance with passion. So it's not necessarily a young dancer. I think I need a mature dancer, a woman.
A woman.
A woman. I think it's a woman's role. I'm looking for a woman to dance. First of all, for a short play I've written to go with my art show about the mother and baby homes. And then secondly, I need a younger dancer then for my pilot. But it's got to be somebody that's not just a good dancer. It's got to be somebody who's kind of an old head on young shoulders. So it is a young person, but it's got to be a young person with a lot of depth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the dancing really is, you know, I'm dancing to survive here, you know. So the dancer has to understand that.
We'll talk about
that. So have a think.
Yeah. There's so many, there's so many ideas, you know. I mean,
there's so many ideas. But coming back to ageism, I think, you know,
people
don't, like, it's about discrimination, and I do believe it's a form of discrimination. Ageism.
Yeah.
I really do. I think it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're the best person for the job, you're the best person.
But you know, Alison, I was looking on Garda Síochána page the other day, and this is what, you know, I mean, it's a bugbear with me, you know, I mean, because I went back as a mature student to do my degree, my master's, PhD, and now another degree. And it's just, and you're there and you're saying to yourself, they'll take you on, they'll take your money, they'll take whatever, and you'll do your course, and then you're just, and you're the most qualified in your area, in the country, and you can't get a job because people will say, oh, you know, they're only going to be going for younger people and things like that. Now I look at Garda Síochána, and they were there the other day, and they had this big campaign on for we don't discriminate, and they had people up from every nationality. They had one, I think, a Polish lad who was saying that I'm a student in Templemore and I'm studying for Garda Síochána. Now, years ago, you had to have the Irish to do that. That's fine and everything. But I put a post up and I said, what about age discrimination? Does this mean anyone can apply? Because if you're over 35, you can't apply for Garda Síochána. Now, that's an absolutely appalling message to be sending.
It is. Why did you make a complaint, Mary?
I did. That somebody reaches 35 and they're no longer able to do anything. And with all due respects, I've seen many members of Garda Síochána going around. They can hardly walk with, they're so unfit.
When you're talking about members of the Garda Síochána who are fat and unfit, I've seen them every day.
And yet you have somebody, say, like Pat Barry there, who's as old as Methuselah.
I don't want to be a guard.
He's really fit, and I mean, he's slim and he's fit and he's healthy, and you have people over 35 who go to the gym every single day, and they're told that they're not fit for An Garda Síochána, but yet somebody can be in An Garda Síochána or any job. And
can they not be community guards?
It doesn't matter what size they are or how unfit they are for the job. And
Mary, do they not have to do medicals and all that now?
They're supposed to.
No, Alison, come on. Alison, you've been in the courts a lot. There are some members of the force can't sit in the seats; they're too big for them. I mean, really, you've seen it yourself, and that's no.
I just give up.
The majority of the Gardaí.
My mom has a real issue with people who are overweight. She always says, "There's no need for it. There's no need for it."
I'm overweight, and every time you talk about people being overweight,
bad food and too much food.
It's nothing to do with that. It's genetics as well. But the point I'm making is that if you have a young person who is unfit, and you have a person in their 40s who goes to the gym every single day, why are people discriminating against them and saying that, oh, you're over 35? None of the Gardaí replied to my comment. They replied to other comments. Thank you for your nice
No, post. Mary, you haven't written officially to Drew Harris, have you?
I haven't.
I'll write to him. Him.
And the funny thing is, I'm with the Abraham Global Peace Initiative, and the assistant or the deputy commissioner of An Garda Síochána is on the board of so I might actually write to her, and she's
but actually set it out,
it's just appalling. Loads of people came in and said, you're 100% right, Mary, 35 years of age and you can't apply for An Garda Síochána, and is it 40 and you have to retire from it? That is immoral.
No, that's mental.
That you're being pushed out of a job.
40 and you're 30.
You're being pushed out of a job to make way for a younger person. Why should anyone leave their jobs for someone else? Let the government employ more people, put money into employing more people. Why should I give up my job and have to wait a year to get a pension from a job and draw the social welfare for that year? And somebody else get my job, and when you lose your job, your money decreases rapidly.
Yeah,
what you're earning, that has no moral standing in my view.
Well, I mean, I had to leave the civil service at 65.
Yeah,
and the pension didn't kick in until you're 66, so you had to eat grass for 12 months.
You had to eat grass.
That's it.
But I think you're absolutely right. The retirement age should be 70. And it should be 70. It should be 70.
Yeah, I don't think there should be a retirement age.
To give people an option, some people say, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. If you
but
don't
Alison,
want to work, leave.
I think it's a 19th century idea for the 21st century that's outdated. You should keep working as long as you like, as long as you can. And as long as you're fit, you can have your medical every year.
Pat's father and mother were retired 30 years. They're drawing the pension for 30 years.
30 years.
And they could have been working. They're in their, well, his mother's dead.
My dad is drawing the pension 31 years this year.
Oh, that's
and he could have been working for 25 of them.
That's insane. That's insane. And you see, it's really good for your mental health as well to work.
Absolutely. Apart from that
you're put out to pasture, Laura says, Alison, the minute you're told that you're no longer an essential part of society, that's when things happen.
I know. So my father just went woof. I mean, heart attack, strokes, cracked spine, cancer.
You want to leave, Alison, if you want to give up your job and you've had enough and you want to retire and you've had this dream of going to
that's fine.
South of France, that's wonderful. But if you need your job, one, for your mental state, or two, for your mental, physical or financial, you might be like me on your own and you need your job.
Yeah.
Why should you be forced out of your job?
Yeah, I know, it's very unfair. It is very unfair. My father
Why
should not
shouldn't
have been let go. He didn't want to go. My Uncle Jack didn't want to leave the post office. Like, they were all fantastic workers, like the best workers, never missed a day. Like, my Uncle Jack was held in an armed robbery. His van was hijacked. He was tied up, left in the back of a van for hours when they were doing the checks. And he went to work the next day. Went to work the next day.
You go.
I don't
and then he had to leave, and he was devastated. He was devastated.
I mean, we agree here on the panel
that courses, mature students. Why are they taking mature students on?
We agree here on the panel that
that's a good point, Mary.
Few more topics to cover. We agree on the panel that ageism is another discrimination that has to be got rid of. Obviously, there are specific jobs that require specific, I suppose, talents that a person of 75 wouldn't be able to do, but they're the exception rather than the rule. We're talking about routine jobs and regular jobs, if you can call it that. Anyway, press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel, LiR Media TV. You'll find all the programs on our YouTube channel. And non-governmental organizations, NGOs, I know we won't spend much time on this, so people mightn't have had time to look into it. We put it on the floor because I just noticed that 165,000 people in this republic are employed by the NGOs, the non-governmental organizations. Now, that's a misnomer in itself, Alison, as you know, putting on your journalistic hat, putting you on the spot, because they're funded by the government to the tune of €6 billion.
But a lot of them are just doing the work that the government won't do. And a perfect example of that is Inner City Helping Homeless. And, you know, we know what happened there.
We do.
And, yeah, I mean, that was absolutely awful. Yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah, absolutely awful what happened there. I mean, you know, you had one of the senior members being accused of sexual abuse, and then he took his own life. And you see, I always feel it's a bit of a get out of jail card with the government. They'll say it was nothing to do with us. Like, we fund them because they were doing great work. But if there's sexual harassment and abuse going on there, and they're locking people in their homes for 3 and 4 days and raping them for hours, it's not really anything to do with us. You know, so it is, on one hand, some of them do extraordinary work. And they'll always say they don't get enough money. But on the other hand, it's a real get out of jail card for the government. I think that's one of the big reasons why there's so many of them, because they're thinking, animal cruelty, yeah, we'll fund them, but you know, when you have to close down pounds and things, we'd say, well, nothing to do with us. I mean, they're regulated, they're signed up to the charities regulator, they're this, that, and the other. But really, it can't come back on us because we didn't do it.
The prime example, before you come in, Mary, the prime example of what drew my attention to it is that, and we've obviously touched on this again another night, is that the National Women's Council, who are well funded as well, and they have specific tasks, their specific, well, let's say, work to do. The National Women's Council, of course, it's a misnomer. It should be called the Single Women's Council, or the separate, but it's not an inclusive organization as their charter points out that it should be. I never heard one single person, I'm open to correction, one single board member of the National Women's Council over the last 20 years ever highlighting the stay-at-home mothers in this society and the supports that they need on their daily basis to bring up their family. I never heard them acknowledging those women. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. My own mother never worked.
But you know, instead of
there are people today with 4, 5, 6 kids doing that, women, because their husbands are working, and no acknowledgement ever. That's my bee in the bonnet over that.
Yeah. I think you know, this whole thing of a woman's place is in the home, rearing the kids, you know, some people still fancy a bit of that. They're thinking, keep her at home to mind the children, and therefore we don't have to worry about that family.
It's a huge.
It's a massive issue. Pat, I had to do it. I had to work and go out to work, and with two small children.
If the mother is ignorant, there's a generation ignorant.
Yeah, I think.
It's a fact.
I mean, you know, we've changed our language, saying, you know, I work in the home. So, you know, I don't have a job. Well, mom doesn't really do anything. So now I'm a full-time mother. I work in the home. So we're changing our language slowly.
Yes.
But we're doing feck all to support the full-time mothers. But if a dad becomes a full-time dad and stays at home, it's a big deal. You've got a story about that. Dad decided to stay at home and rear the children so mom could go out to work, because she was earning more and he said he'd like to work at home, blah, blah. And you're thinking, it's a big deal if a dad does it, because it doesn't really happen. It's normally women who do it. We're not acknowledging. That is a tough role. Imagine rearing 5 kids and staying at home with them. Oh my God. No.
There's a woman down the road.
About 10 of them. Well, about 10, 9 or 10.
Oh no, my grandmother had 13. I mean, I still, to this day, even as I get older, I'm thinking, no, still, the older I get, as a child, I thought, no problem, 13 kids all running around. When you get older, you're like, oh my God. Every year it gets worse when I think about it. I think, how in God's name did she do that? No husband, gone, 13 kids.
Anyway, Mary, we're on the NGOs, the non-governmental.
No, I just want to add to that. There's a family down the road from me, and there was 16 of them in the family. Dead. One died the other day, and I never came across a happier woman in my life. And a happier group family who were 100% united. We live, all of our houses are 2-bedroom, semi-detached houses in a little cul-de-sac, and she reared 16 of them inside in 2 bedrooms. I have no idea how the woman did it, but she should have won an award for it. And I never, ever, to the day she died 3 years ago, never saw a happier woman in my life. Happy,
I was talking to her, I know who
happy and contented with her lot. Her husband was in the army and had been in the army, and she reared most of that she did on her own while he was away in the army. And I just, you know, as an only child, who lived, I suppose, okay, my mom had her own problems with dad being in England and she been here with me. But imagine what it would have been like if she had had me and 15 others. Do you know, it was just, these women deserved awards that they'll never get. They'll never get the recognition, and those children had everything she could possibly give them. I mean, and more than that, they had love. And to this day, their father is alive, thank God. And he is adored by every one of them. And there's equal amounts of boys and girls in the family. It's just amazing. It's just an amazing family. And but I mean, to talk about the NGOs, I mean, and the women's network, or whatever they're called, you know, I mean, even that came up there recently with the women, that the group that didn't want to let, whether you like it or not, females members of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael to speak, yet they say they weren't political. They're taking money from the government, they're getting money from the government, but they would only allow certain women. And it actually brought to mind to me, some are more equal than others, because they'd only allow Sinn Féin or all of the left-wing parties to speak at it, but anyone that was from Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael or the Greens.
Well, that's because
political. But it became political, and it was not political.
And they were in government. In fairness to the National Women's Council in that respect, I can see what they were trying to do. I know they made a NASA's thing of it, but I can see the idea behind it. I don't agree with it. I'm just saying.
Of course, we all see that they were trying to protest.
We're going to give a platform to women who are not represented in government by those parties because they have a.
But then they should have had no politician.
They reckon they have a platform every day in the Dáil. They dominate the Dáil and all that.
Yeah.
They all do, Pat. There's nobody has a bigger platform than Mary Lou McDonald, and there's nobody has a bigger platform than Claire Byrne and all of Claire. What's her name?
Daly.
Claire Daly and people like Claire Daly, all left wing. There's nobody. They all get. There should have been no female politician on the stand at all. It should have been apolitical and people fighting for the rights of women who weren't getting.
I'm not making an excuse. I'm saying they made a mistake. They know they did. They can't take it back. It's done and dusted. And the proof of the pudding. I know, Alison, were you at the meeting or not? At the rally?
No.
Well, you'd have been easily spotted there because it's very poorly attended.
No, but I mean, I think everyone should have a rally. I'm a great believer in people going out and standing up for their rights and coming out en masse.
Yeah.
And, the power of people to say, we're not satisfied with it. They did it with the water rates.
They did.
And I mean,
the last big
French
one.
Are phenomenal at it. But for heaven's sake, don't discriminate. If you're for women, then you're for women of all colour and creed and political persuasion. And if you're fighting against the government, don't have any government or any politician on the stand.
And Alison, do you get the sense that people are beaten down over the last 2 years, and now that with these 40% rises and thing and gas bills now, people's instinct is to go up and go out and protest, but they're really, really, after the last 2 years of what we went through as human beings, that really, I think that it'll take them another couple of months to get back into.
I think you're right, Pat. I think you're spot on there. It's going to take a bit of time when the reality sinks in. I mean, I'm still going out and going, do I wear my mask or do I not? And I'm going into the shop and I'm wearing a mask and I'm still coming to terms with that. I'm still actually trying to figure that out and settle down into it. So I think generally across the board, people are still settling down.
Yeah.
And then when they have a few big bills, you might see a reaction then. Because Irish people do go out and protest. They're protesting every Saturday. There's a protest in Dublin. Every Saturday is posted about something.
There was one.
We've been through a psychological warfare for the last 2 years that people don't actually realise. Yeah. And we've neighbour has been turned against neighbour, friend against friend, family member against their family, and people don't realise it. And in the fullness of time, they'll realise that the psychological warfare that they were exposed to,
absolutely,
now leading into this, and people have been so long cloistered. It's almost like what you call that when you fall in love with your captor, and
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome. I was going to say Helsinki.
No, I'm not going to Sweden.
No, but it's almost a form of Stockholm syndrome where people are now nervous of going out, and if they are out, they're still masked up because they're afraid, and they don't know what to do because they for 2 years now they have been told that if you're out, wear a mask, and I don't understand how anyone is getting a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think people are still coming to terms with it. It's all whoa, all a bit strange, a little bit scared. And then in the background, whereas it was the lead story, COVID figures today are X, Y, and Z, they're tweeted. That was our format. National emergency numbers come in, you tweet them, then you lead with them, and it goes straight up onto the web. Now it's pushed down and not tweeting them as much and all that, but yet the figures are rising again. So people are still scared, and that is in the background psychologically.
But of course, my attitude is that of course figures are rising, because if everyone was to test themselves every single day of the week, I'm sure everyone would test positive.
Why are people testing themselves if they're not sick?
No, but I mean, if you've been injected, or if you've
a
had
form of
COVID.
madness.
I've had COVID and I was in hospital. Pat has had COVID.
Really? In hospital, Mary?
Yeah, I was
Both
2
of us
weeks.
were.
2 weeks. But he was 2 weeks upstairs.
I know you weren't well, Pat. I didn't know you were in hospital.
Nearly 2 weeks in hospital, yeah.
Oh, Christ.
But
He said, I'll call to your house every day, he said, and I'll cook for you because I like cooking. He ended up in hospital, useless to me.
Before her.
And I ended up, before me, and I ended up in hospital as well.
COVID,
so I got, for the days that he was in hospital, I had a morsel in my, because I just couldn't walk.
COVID-19 and a half. Before we finish, your favourite pop singer?
I'm actually just getting a text of a woman shot in Finglas. That's why I'm looking at this going, what is happening here? Yeah, I've just got the text there saying that. I will let you know if I hear anything. Carry on, Pat.
Oh, jeez. Your favourite pop singer? I'll start the ball rolling. My favourite pop singer of all time, modern times, the best pop album ever made. I'm out in a limb here. Thriller by Michael Jackson.
Really? See, I was never a Michael Jackson fan. I was never.
You know what you know? He played in Cork.
Did he?
Oh yes.
John Lonergan.
Didn't he stay? He had a friend in Ireland, didn't he? In Westmeath or something.
Yeah, he loved Ireland, but John Lonergan met him, and he said he was coming down the stairs as John Lonergan was coming into the hall.
No, he met John.
He met John. Oh, Pat, I couldn't. There's so many.
Did you ever hear? That's a good headline. Did you ever hear of the man who met John Lonergan?
Good book. The Man Who Met John Lonergan. The star.
Well, anyway, was lucky to meet him and his Irish dancing son.
So you were never into Michael Jackson, Alison?
No, I never liked him. I always thought he was too weird and damaged, very damaged. And I was more interested in his story and how he ended up like that, and the family and the dad and all of that. But I will always maintain he was a paedophile abusing children. I will always. And actually, just before we came on,
I don't believe it for a second.
I've always believed that. I will never believe otherwise. I just think the idea that you would be sleeping in a bed with a child, pretending you're a child. He was a grown man with physical reactions.
Yeah, but his growth was stunted. He was an incredibly immature man who had no childhood whatsoever.
But he's still a man. He's a man with.
But I would like to think that he.
I couldn't imagine a man of 40 sleeping with a
favorite.
And I couldn't imagine mothers allowing it to happen, to be so caught up, dumbasses, being so caught up with that shit.
They hold as much
money.
Oh, the mothers were so stupid. Like they got caught up in the fame and fortune and the ego that they let him away with it. It just not, Mom, can I sleep in the bed with, no. I don't even want to know who you want to sleep in the bed with.
Yeah, forget about it.
So no, for me.
Get up in the attic where you usually are.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
I was never allowed a sleepover, even as a child.
No, I will always, I understand people are very divided by it, but I think he's a paedophile, always.
Anyway.
I never did, but my favorite.
You have to name a pop star before we finish.
Madonna. Oh, the queen of, I absolutely idolize her.
Like a virgin. I love that.
My mother
song.
used to say she's a tramp. She's a tramp.
No, that's a good.
I love her. I'm just sorry she went down the plastic surgery route. I know you can do what you like to your face. I just thought she would age gracefully.
Who sang Girls Just Wanna Have Fun? Cyndi Lauper.
I met her.
My mother loved Cyndi Lauper.
She's beautiful. I met her. She was the better singer, but Madonna.
My mum was a trained singer, and she used to always look at Cyndi Lauper and say her voice is way too good for singing, for that type of singing.
Well, she did.
There was something in her voice that was just. But I suppose my favorite. Are you still waffling on?
Cyndi Lauper did a fantastic album, I remember, with he's gone in a minute.
She did a Roy Orbison song.
Tony Bennett. Go on there, go on.
My favorite would of all time, of course, has to be Elvis.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh God. Yeah.
Elvis, just Elvis. You know, I mean, if I was
Elvis the pelvis.
Elvis, and I mean,
Gorgeous.
and if you're going with rock, then it has to be without a doubt Meatloaf.
Really?
I just loved Meatloaf,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, rock I love.
I won't do
Yeah,
that.
I love rock, but
I love
Madonna
rock.
was my woman. She was my
Yeah, Madonna, I of course, I
I
loved
loved what's her name with the leather trousers. What was her name?
They all wore leather trousers, maybe.
And played the guitar.
Listen, I must confess, I had a big, huge poster on my wall of this rock singer in a red leather tracksuit with a zip down the front. Susie Quattro. Susie Quattro, yeah.
Oh my God, Pat, I've got a picture. I met her. I interviewed her. I have a picture with her.
Oh.
I will send it to you.
Can you get Cindy? Can you get her on Pat's show? And
I interviewed her on 98 FM
about
15 years ago, and she came in this electric blue jacket. But I have a picture. I will send it to you. And I met Cyndi Lauper.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Susie Quattro apparently is a lovely person.
Beautiful, beautiful. And
you're not interested in her as a person.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but I said to her, how come she was so gorgeous, and you know, you're hanging around with all these guys, surely their girlfriends were insecure? And she goes, no. Girls were never insecure around me because I support women. I never stole anyone's man. And I was there, go on. Because that's what you want in somebody you look up. She's not going to steal my man. Dolly Parton.
I believe that because I saw her in a few interviews.
You just want to believe she's perfect.
No, I did believe that. I know it's a stupid thing to say because I never met the woman, but I believe she was a good person.
Beautiful, beautiful. And she came across fabulous. She came in leather trousers. She had grey hair. She'd left a grey and she had it kind of cut to here and a blue jacket. Mary, remind me to send you the picture. Gotta send it to you.
Oh, I'd say Pat wouldn't be. It's the only time Pat wouldn't be interrupting. He would just sit there and just look at her.
Susie Quattro. And she was beautiful.
David Essex for me.
And hardly any makeup on. Little rosy cheeks.
Do you hear me, David Essex?
Stop. Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Mary Dawson. If Mary Dawson
must be around 68 now, I'd say, nearly my age.
Around that, yeah, maybe more, Pat. But I interviewed her in 19 15 years ago. But I got the picture. And they never got a picture with Cyndi Lauper. Raging.
Girls just want to have fun.
I still want to meet Madonna. I still want to meet her. So if Madonna, if you're looking and listening.
I call her Don Cork Mad Donna.
Mad Donna. I'm just sorry she's lost. She's all strange looking.
No, she never did anything. Cyndi Lauper, no, for me. And
she was a singer. She's a singer.
You know, and it's just she was a great.
What would you say, Meatloaf?
Meatloaf. Oh my God.
He died recently, didn't he? Yeah.
Do you know what I loved about Meatloaf? I mean, I could never be accused of being dramatic. No, I'm only joking. But I loved the drama.
Ask me that bottle there, Alison.
I loved the drama that Meatloaf created.
He was good. Yeah, he was good.
I mean, you had Freddie Mercury, and you had who was another. It was
brilliant. Do you know, Mary? I didn't appreciate him until I'd say the last 2 or 3 years. I watched the 20th anniversary of Live Aid, and then the film came out, and I was like, oh my God, I couldn't stand him. And my God, he was brilliant.
And I mean, when he sang with Montserrat Caballé and Barcelona, I mean, only Freddie with 4 octaves could sing. Yeah. Could keep any way near Montserrat. I mean, she would have drowned him out if she had been at her full power. But you know, such was the respect between them and the love between them that only shortly before he died, he sang with her. He was an extraordinary entertainer, and you know, I just love that type of John Farnham, the voice. I mean, I just love rock.
Yeah,
good music, and
I love all kinds of music, and
yeah.
I mean, for me, if I had to go for kind of rock and pop,
It's rock and
nobody will top Prince. He was just a genius.
Yeah, my
Oh, do you know, I was thinking about this the other day. I was grieving when he died.
Yeah.
I was so upset because he died so suddenly. But he was extraordinary.
He was an extraordinary talent beyond singing and beyond.
Yeah,
you know, when
you could just do everything.
When you look at his jazz piano playing, that he would always play jazz to tune when he was tuning.
Yeah.
When they were on stage getting the sound right, always play jazz. His parents were jazz.
A genius.
His parents were jazz.
Oh, he was a living genius. There was just nobody like him.
Writing, singing, piano playing, guitar.
Something like 11 or 12 instruments, and all self-taught. Exactly. And you know, I wouldn't be one for following musicians and all that kind of thing, but I'd love to go to Paisley Park and I'd love to go to Graceland. That's how much I love them, you know.
Yeah, well, there's actually a singer in America, and he sings The Sound of Silence, Disturbed, and he's my latest. Disturbed is the name of the group now. I hate heavy metal, but oh my God, I don't think anybody, including Simon and Garfunkel, will sing The Sound of Silence as good as this. It is
Disturbed. Okay, I have to write
it. So much so that it's the first time Paul Simon actually, when he heard it first, put it up on his website and advertised and said, this is the way this song should have been sung. He was born in America, brought up in Israel. His brother lives there still, and he's a trained baritone. But again, he has 4 octaves, and he just the whole thing.
I'm gonna listen.
You should, and he was also.
Alison, I hope you will, because it's been foisted upon me so many times that I know
you
that
ate it now.
Yeah, Alison, it's just Disturbed for anyone who wants to listen. It's called, the group is called Disturbed.
On that disturbing note, Mary, which will bring this to an end tonight. And what have you in store for readers tomorrow in the Mirror?
Graham Dwyer's appeal, and the judgment in the European courts is due on the 5th of April. So we've spoken to John O'Keefe, a very high-profile criminologist, and also a woman who was writing to him, infatuated.
But Graham Dwyer.
What is it about women getting infatuated with murderers?
Well, it's the idea, isn't it?
Excitement.
I can change him.
You know, like Eamon Lillis, women loved him.
They did. But what about wasn't he the chap that was convicted on circumstantial evidence?
Yes, and the phone records now is a big issue, because phone retention, and we were following data retention, and we were following out-of-date laws, breach, and there's been a Supreme Court ruling and a High Court ruling, so it's gone to the European courts, and that ruling is due the 5th of April. So if he wins, and it's looking increasingly likely that he will, then I think he faces a retrial. I think that's what happens. And then a retrial with no phone evidence, when the core of the case was based on phone evidence.
He's Alison.
He's in jail a long time now. He's in jail. Was it 12 years or 15?
No, that's Joe O'Reilly. You're probably
thinking Joe O'Reilly.
No, he's in jail since 2016, I think.
Joe O'Reilly. It's not him.
Joe O'Reilly's in jail since about 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
But Graham Dwyer is in jail since about March 2016.
What was that murder again now, Graham Dwyer?
Killed his wife, Rachel O'Reilly, in the Knoll.
Oh, the filmmaker, was it?
No, that's Sophie Tuscan de Plantier you're thinking of.
You have Sophie, yeah.
You were just now.
Sophie Tuscan de Plantier, you're all over the place, Pat. Graham Dwyer killed his wife.
Excuse me.
Graham Dwyer was the sadistic killer, S&M, bondage, bloodletting, the goriest, sickest, Oh, I mean, I had to leave a few times.
He maintained that she wanted to be.
She wasn't Elaine O'Hara. She was very mentally disturbed.
She wasn't a well girl.
Poor woman, like, oh.
And he maintained.
That's the case. That's the case that's coming up, is it?
Yeah, he maintained.
So he's been appealing because it was based on phone evidence, and they're saying that, you know, you're not allowed to keep phone evidence. Like, it's meant to be deleted after 2 years. So now you'll notice that your records are deleted after 2 years. And basically that's come from the Graham O'Dwyer trial. But if he gets a retrial and his case was based on phone evidence, then if there's no phone evidence, what's the evidence?
But Joe O'Reilly, now that I was thinking of, his evidence was all on phone as well, a lot of it.
Yeah, his phone pinged off a mask, but you see, that was earlier. So we were acting within the law. But again, it was circumstantial evidence. But by the time of Dwyer's trial, we were following 2011 laws, when we should have amended our laws, and the courts and the justice system had been warned that this could happen, and now it could be a total catastrophe. It's not looking good. It's not looking good.
Sunday Mirror, is it? The Sunday Mirror lads from the watch of this program, Alison.
We're so fortunate to have and privileged to have you with us, Alison O'Reilly. Journalist extraordinaire.
Oh yeah, big time.
You know, I mean, what's the highest award a journalist can get? Pulitzer? No.
Oh yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so you can put me forward for that. Yeah,
forward for the Pulitzer, Alison.
Like that, yeah. But what about Pierre? I can't say his surname. The Irish journalist that was killed in Ukraine. That's very sad. So
that was
tribute to him. His family are looking to repatriate him home, and he was educated in UCD group in South Dublin. So,
love him.
Very sad. God love him. Yeah, but journalist.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his name either. He has.
Was he attached to Fox News? Is he? Fox?
Yes,
he was.
And they did a beautiful tribute to him. Pierre. I'm not going to.
No.
But you know what? I think we should pay tribute to Pierre and the incredible work that he did. He was in the war zones. He was amazing to work with by all accounts. And when journalists arrived to the war zones and he was there, they used to go, "Oh, Pierre is here." So, you know, he was killed in an ambush.
Like that woman that was killed, was it Afghanistan or Syria? The one with the patch over her eye.
Oh yeah.
Pierre Zakrzewski.
Yeah.
Pierre Zakrzewski.
I remember reading a lot of it. She was fantastic, you know.
Anyway. Yeah, very sad times. But look, journalism helps. Journalism helps, no matter what you say.
Well, what was that journalist that you, Katie? What was her name? She used to go to all the war zones with BBC.
I know who you're talking about now. I can't think.
You're our version of her.
Oh yes, of course I am. Yeah, the war. I've never been in a war zone in my life.
I know who she's talking about, Alison.
War zone every day though here. So
she was working RT.
No, BBC. BBC.
Google her there. Have you got her?
I am. I'm trying to Google.
We'll all go. Yeah.
Kate Adie.
Yeah.
Dr. Google told me, Kate Adie. You're on Kate Adie.
Yeah. I mean, they've done like Alex Crawford and all of them were paying tribute to all the journalists who've been killed in wars. And at the end of the day, like some of the biggest scandals to ever come out in the world have come from journalists. Spotlight is one of them. They brought down the Catholic Church, just decimated it.
Was that film? Do you see that film?
Brilliant.
They made a film on it. It was a local newspaper.
It was the Boston Globe.
I'm thinking of forget that fool. Left this out.
Well, I'm actually interviewing Martin Roberts coming up, and he works with Homes Under the Hammer.
Yeah.
UK, and he spent the last 26 hours without a break going to Ukraine to deliver goods to them. And when he got to the Polish border, they wouldn't let him into Ukraine because it was too dangerous. So he was there and he delivered the goods. So I'm interviewing him now. Thanks to.
And Alison, I'm thinking of the story about the abuse in the gymnastics teams in America.
Oh yes. I know.
The local they couldn't believe what they had. Do you remember?
Yeah.
When you got the phone call there was a film made about a documentary.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It was fantastic, just fantastic.
Fantastic work, yeah. So always remember, if you want the scandals to come out, you've got to talk to the media, a reliable source.
And how many sources would you need? If I was to give you a salacious story now, how many sources would I use, apart from my own credibility, which is above reproach?
You'd have to say you have to speak to this person, and this person. Give me the gist, pass me on the numbers, and then I have to check everything they're saying.
The Sunday Mirror, lads, is where it's at. Every Sunday, when you're having your coffee and toast and your eyes are down to your job,
we're the finest in the land. We play at wakes and weddings and every country hall. And when we play it.
Take care, lads.
See you later, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
This is LiR Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.